So one of the simple psychology things that I would do with the staff is there is a color survey that you do with your staff. And there's 4 different colors, 4 different personality types. So the first thing they would do is they would take this psychology test to learn how they work with a group. So after that, we have a lot of fun with that. And so if this is something that you're interested in, say, I want to see this presentation in its full entirety, I can send you these quizzes and so forth. So as the results is, let me make this bigger. Okay. So we just self-awareness. So if you're creating leaders and, as leaders, you have to have that self-awareness. And then it turned into a fun team building thing. So it looked kind of like this. So after the quiz, you're put into 4 different groups. You're either a gold, a green, an orange, or a blue. So what does that mean? Well, most people are gold. And most of the people are gold. You're the rule followers, you're a good, productive citizen, and you like to follow directions well. If you're an orange, you are kind of a rebel, an innovator. And then blue, you're a very good people person, and you make sure everybody's opinions considered. And then you're green, you're kind of the conspiracy question. Well, why can't we do it this way? A little bit out of the box. You want to have a good mix when you form a group. So in the team building, I would get them together by color, and they could talk about what drives them nuts, what they value. So they would kind of get to know people who are like-minded.
Uh-oh. Did we lose Debbie?
I think she disappeared. She's
Debbie left us.
Her internet was not stable, I believe.
There she is, I think.
Debbie, can you hear us?
She's still presenting because her screen's changing.
Debbie? I don't see mute on her, so her audio is just gone.
Maybe we can use the chat to notify people.
Yeah, I just did.
Okay.
All right. Well.
Sir. I think she's trying to come back in. Looks like she disappeared again.
Hey, Deb. You're on mute.
Hey, I'm trying.
There you go. Yep, we got you now.
You can hear me now?
We
Is it
can.
showing that I'm muted? This is crazy. Okay, so I need to get back my slides up. I'm looking. Okay, I'm trying to get there. Sorry about that. Okay.
Yep, gotcha.
You can see it?
Yep, we see green.
It's very, very big on my screen for some reason, but I'm just going to go with it. So even though I can't see all the words, I know what they say. So if you were a green, the left side shows how you see yourself. You know, you're not emotional, you're not repetitive, you're highly intelligent. But then sometimes what could be off-putting in your personality is you could be critical, come off as an intellectual snob, so forth. So once we were getting to know the colors and seeing the good and bad and getting into some deep reflection, we had a lot of laughs. So I always enjoy doing that with my groups. And I'm trying to click to the next slide. Let's see, I want to get out of this Zoom thing I'm doing. Okay. It's frozen. Zoom out. Okay. Zoom out. Okay, even though I can't see the slides, I see you're on the gold slide. So if you can see the slides, this is how the people in the gold will see themselves. And then you see on the right side how the people that are considered a gold personality are, you know, what could be annoying and could be off-putting. So once you have all that awareness, and then you can get them in groups, and you have, ideally you would want to have one color of each per team to be the most productive. Then you, as you can see, the blue, you need these people on the staff. They help, very helpful with morale, and that's how they see themselves. But then if you look to the right, these are the things that could be off-putting in a group. And if everybody has their color and they have that self-awareness, it after they have their good laugh, it does help with productivity. And then there's the orange. I know some people here that are orange. And these are the people that you need. You need innovators. You need the idea people. But just imagine if you put all orange people in one group. They would be innovating all day long and not accomplish anything. So that's why you have to have a good mix when you're creating a group, especially if you have to have a task force of your leaders. So there it is in a nutshell. So, you know, if you're green, you pretty much, you're going to ask why. Gold, you're going to keep everybody on task. Blue, you want to stay in tune with the culture, the morale, and orange, you're like, let's get it done. Let's do it. Let's go. So that's, in a nutshell, you would like to have that composition for an ideal team if you were to create a task force. Okay, I have to zoom in here so I can see. Okay, so preaching to the choir of self-awareness as you leverage people. There we go. Instead of playing this video, I'm just going to explain it to you for the sake of time. This is Tampa Bay Rays, Upton and Longoria, and that's several years ago. Upton was to catch an easy pop fly that should have been caught and done and got the person out, but he was kind of slacking and jogging. He goes back to the dugout. The whole entire team wants to jump him. And you say, well, that's probably not the ideal, but actually, where's the coach? The coach wasn't there because everybody on that team had a mission that they were going to be at their best. So that was kind of, in a way, you know, of course, I'm not suggesting you want your team behind you beating the crap out of each other, but you want everybody engaged and on board with your mission. So if you ever want to see this, I'm happy to play that video for you, or you can Google it. Moving on. Another philosophy that has suited me in turnaround, it says transitioning school culture. But this doesn't apply to just schools. It applies to leading anything. And you can categorize people. And as I was looking, I was assessing. They could be believers. These are the people that are behind you. They're going to help you get things going. And of course, ideally, you'd want to have a whole team of believers. Then you have the tweeners. They're new. They're excited. They don't know anything. And you have to pay close attention to who they latch onto. So actually, it's most important you got to pay attention to your tweeners. The believers are going to get things done. You can turn your back. And then you have your survivors. They may have a good skill set, but they might be overwhelmed and they could be ruining your organization just because of where they are in their life. So you have to kind of coach them along, and they may work out or they may not. And then finally, you have your fundamentalists. Those are super fun people. If I was writing this book, I would call them the cancer, and they need treatment. And sometimes you can make it work and you can turn them around. But then if the cancer treatment doesn't work, you got to cut them out. Okay. So then, just like I said, the believers, they're your intrinsically motivated people. You want them around. They're going to help you get things going to run your organization. And if ideally you want them all to be believers, this is where I play the song, I'm a Believer. And the tweeners, very, very important. You can double your believers very easily if you pay a lot of attention to your newbies and your tweeners. Survivors, you rehabilitate as much as you can, but they're not good for your organization because they're just too focused on, and then they will not do what's best for the organization because they are just surviving. And then your fundamentalists, they are the most fun, but they're not bad people. Sometimes they're fundamentalists just because of fear, or just because maybe they don't trust the leader. So if you can look at those two things as the why, you can fix a fundamentalist. But then if, again, if your chemo doesn't work, you have to cut the cancer. And so we just talked about some things that you do, like drop your tools, research, find out the why they're a fundamentalist, and then maybe you can work with them. Okay, how am I doing on time? Ooh, I'm doing good. Okay, even with all that. So then this is when I would take processing pause. The learners in my session, they would actually fill out grids of where their people were. So they would have a set idea on how they were going to look at their faculty and put their teams together. And this is a video that I will not have time to play for you, but it is something that if you want to see the whole presentation, it's a video of Woodstock. So you can imagine the entertainment value there. And it's talking to leadership. So a lone leader who wants to create a movement or initiative is out there dancing alone in the grass. And the second leader is the most pivotal person. That's the person that will get behind you and show you how, and show the followers how to follow. So they're usually the ones that will help you get your followers. So the most important person is your second in command. But we all know that. And then I leave you with a bit of research that has helped me in turnaround. This is a really interesting book. I don't know if you're familiar with David Marquet. He, Navy SEAL officer, he had to take over the worst operation. And so he has a long TED Talk video, but his idea is you have to give control. Even if they're young and new, you learn together. And that's where I got the initiative where I would tell my staff, I have to think for however many people I had, 80, 130. I can't think, we will not be successful. So your ideal, at the end, you want people to do what they need to do without being told, and get away from the CEO knows it all and tells it all. There's power of I don't know, and the we, they boundary. And we, they boundary. In fact, you as a leader, you're not the they, you're part of the we. One thing that, as an example, when I was running a school, I had a mom drop off a lunchbox, and she says, I want to take this to my child. And the secretary goes, well, you can't, the teacher's instructing. And she goes, well, why not? And she said, well, because the principal's not going to like it. That's not the answer. So I had to train my staff. So no, we want to keep the kids engaged as much as possible. And we will make sure they get the lunchbox, but we want to keep the learning moving. So I had to really change the language. So whenever I walked into a building, I was always listening. Do we hear her, they, them, or am I hearing we? And so in order to be successful, you have to give the controls to other leaders. So if anything, what I've learned through this process, and it's supported by this book, it is the power of I don't know, and we'll learn together. And that is the end of mine. Hopefully you heard me the whole time. Thank you for bearing with me as I work through this metaverse.
Yeah, we heard you, Deb. Thank you very much.
You heard me? Okay, good.
Yeah. Except for that one little audio glitch we had where you dropped off, we heard everything. I have a question, or is it Q&A time, or where are we at?
Okay, so the next speaker is at 12:35, and I guess I moved very quickly because I know that I was frozen and I had to reboot. So then I thought, oh, I got to put the pedal to the metal, and I went faster than I thought I would. So yeah, plenty of time for questions.
All right. Well, question on your personality traits and establishing a leadership role and an evaluation. Can you give us a few sort of practices, best practices, so that like we want to go to our team and have a retreat and establish the personality types
Yes.
of the green, yellow, orange, and blue? What would you suggest?
So if I was doing this is a hour and a half, hour and 45-minute breakout session. So there is an inventory, a test that they would take. And when I get done answering, I want to answer how you get to do that cool dancing. But so they would take an inventory.
And the clapping.
Oh man.
If you guys look under your emoji on your bottom bar and emotes, there is dancing, clapping, waving, and raising hands. So like I can raise a hand to ask you a question.
Is there a twerking button?
Nope. Nope.
It's not
just the dance.
Debbie, it's not the club. It's the metaverse. So does that answer your question, Jay?
Yeah, it does. I just
how they know.
Yeah, I mean that's something that we would love some resources. I think if you want to send out a chat to us to establish those personality types, and then how we fill for what we don't have, because really to have a well-rounded organization, you want all those personality types, because you've got the analytic thinker, you've got the go-getter, charger, CEO, you've got the team builder in green, right? So just best practices for that. But I think we lost Deb again. So
who's next?
Who's next? Okay.
Kevin Fleming.
Kevin Fleming, Catapult CEO, 1235.
How do we, does everyone just follow me? I'm over by the waterfall. Should we do that?
Yeah, we can follow you. Maya, make sure to follow Kevin, and you can gather everybody at his presentation if anybody gets lost along the way.
Yeah. Thank you. Did I answer your question, Jay, as we're traveling?
You did. All good.
Okay. Yeah.
Head over the bridge towards the waterfall, everyone.
Over the bridge to the waterfall.
Yay.
And I think we'll all go into this blue square, and then we won't be able to hear each other unless we're inside the blue zone, correct?
That's correct. So if Maya can get inside that blue zone and gather everybody.
Yes, please.
Perfect.
Excellent.
Oh, look at that, Jeff. You got your video on. Good work.
Oh, very cool.
Come on in. Come on in. Hi, Michael. Maya, can you hear me? We need Maya. Maya.
Hey, Jay.
Yeah.
So my PowerPoint went somewhere else. I tried to put it back up. I think I got it. That's what took me so long. But what I'm looking like now is I'm looking for my feet up. And how can I get back so I can just look straight like I was before?
V. Hit V.
Uh-huh. But how can I get it so I can see my whole body and kind of see? Because now.
If you hit
yes,
V, you'll be able to see your avatar. So hit V, and that takes you out of first person mode and back so you can see your whole avatar body.
Got it. Okay. I'm crossing over. Thanks, Jay.
Yep, I'll meet you over. Kim, you got to make sure you get inside the blue square so you can hear. If you're outside of that blue square, it'll be silent. There we go. All right. Kevin, we ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, do we have everyone?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, then we will dive in. Let's see, it looks like my frame, the buttons are, let me make this a little smaller so I can actually get to the button. There we go. All right, so my presentation is called Launching Education Forward Faster. I first want to, see now I'm hitting the button, Jay, and it's not advancing.
Up top there?
Yeah.
There we go.
There it goes. Now it just did. So first, I want to start with just some gratitude. Thank you so much for being here, and I'm excited. It's my first time also presenting in the metaverse, so this is great fun. When I try to advance, Jay, I'm seeing that circular.
Yeah, what on the bottom bar, there's a little pencil. Make sure it's white, not yellow.
Ah, that's it. Thank you, friend.
Yep.
So the goal for my segment today is to learn about what we believe is the future of professional development, not just in education, but in all sectors, and talk to you about Catapult's innovative hybrid flexible, or called a high flex model. So first, just an overview. I won't go through my whole resume, but once you guys know, I've been in education 24 years, 19 years in the California Community College system, and I went through the ranks, faculty, dean, college vice president for 4 years, currently working with the Los Angeles Regional Consortium, one of the largest educational segments, not just in America, but in the world, working at the 19 colleges and over 800,000 students a year. Did a lot of work nationally. And so I just want you to know I'm from education, solving a problem for education. And what I have observed is, let's first look at where society is now. Here's some snippets of some different article titles and headlines just over the last 6 months. Some of these will not be unfamiliar to you. There's a lot of research and work out there about whether it's the skills gap, graduates graduating without jobs, high turnover rates, quiet quitting, mental health decline, teachers exiting the profession, you name it. Now, a lot of people look at these and they analyze them as discrete problems. They think we need to solve each one separately. But what we've learned is these are not separate problems. These are actually symptoms of one single deeper root cause. And that root cause is the fact is we have a public education system that continues to march towards irrelevance. Now, that sounds like a very brash statement, especially for someone who is a fan and a product of education. But bear with me. Let me explain what I mean by this. First of all, I believe that, and I've observed that students know school is irrelevant. I can prove this because, frankly, in no other place do you pay for a product, tuition, and then celebrate when it's not received. We would not do that for an athletic conference or a musical event, but when class is canceled, students cheer because they know they are often not being prepared for the real world. Their BS meters are going off. They understand that there's a disconnect between who they are, what we're teaching them in school. And when I say school, I'm talking, K through 16. And so they find themselves frequently in jobs they don't love, doing work they find meaningless, with debt they can't afford. And this is not their fault, right? I mean, they're forced to select from limited subjects and in a general education curriculum pattern. Sometimes there's variability of choice, but it's absent consideration of who they are. It normally has very little flexibility for the skills they bring into the classroom or their aspirations after commencement. And a real quick personal story of how I saw this illustrated so plainly to me. I want to take you back to 2021. I was a vice president at Norco College, and this is the year after the pandemic, but we were still doing social distancing, and we canceled our commencement both in 2020 and then in 21. So in 2021, we did what we called a drive-through pickup and celebration, right? In Southern California, we were still social distancing, 10-foot, apart. So students would show up, they would park in the parking lot. They might have their families with them. They would go to the first easy up and check in, go 10 feet away, the second easy up and get their honor cords. My job, that particular commencement, was to stand right at the edge of a red carpet. I'm on the left-hand side of this picture. I would hold them for about 10 to 15 seconds for the previous student to get celebrated walking down the red carpet and get a picture taken with the president and the chancellor. And this was a very unique situation for me. Like normally as an executive cabinet member, I would be on stage and students would be whizzing by getting their diploma cover. But here I had a chance just for 10 or 15 seconds to talk to every student. Now we had over 400 graduates that year. And these are college graduates, right? 2-year associate's degrees, certificates. I would expect them to have, stories of jubilation, but with only 10 seconds, I found myself able to simply say to them, congratulations, what's next? Right? 10 seconds is too short of a period of time to have a long conversation, but it's too long to stand there in awkward silence. So I would just say to them, what's next? And I was hoping to hear stories of, oh, I've got this great plan and I've got this job and I'm doing this. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't hear that. With over 400 graduates, about half of them said, oh, I'm going to transfer as their answer, to which I said, oh, that's great. And then what? And almost no one had an answer. About a quarter of college graduates that year said, well, I actually have a job or I have an internship or I'm doing this to be a good role model for my kids. They had an articulate why. But there was that last quartile that had absolutely no idea. I mean, it was really just deer in the headlights. I said, congratulations, what's next? And they looked at me and they said, I don't know. And as an educator, that broke my heart. And I remember going back to my wife that night and I felt so convicted because here I created and helped develop a lot of the programs they were graduating from years later. And they had no idea how that was fitting into who they were, what they wanted to do. And I remember really reflecting on that for a while and reflecting on the fact that we had set the wrong goal for these students. And I believe in American education, we're setting the wrong goal. We have metrics about enrollment and persistence and completion. We get funded based off of seat time and attendance and completion with very little regard for what happens to them after. And so I have a whole TED talk if you guys want to go deeper on kind of that mindset journey with me, where I talk about how we define the goal always defines the way we play the game. And I had a college president who said, our goal is to get them to graduate. And then I realized, no, it's not. Like, that's part of it. That's an important milestone, but that's not the extent of their journey. And I think if we redefine the goal and what we're trying to do in our institutions, that will completely change the way that we approach them. So I recently published also on LinkedIn a deeper article that kind of outlines this. I want to share this research with you for a moment. So I've done a couple of years of work on really the student education experience, and I believe that every student falls in one of these 4 quadrants. Either the education they receive is perceived as either relevant or irrelevant to them and the world, and they're either clueless or purposeful about how that education aligns with life after commencement. So let me walk you through these quadrants real quick. I'll start in the bottom left. For the most troubling quadrant represents really what I believe is happening a lot, not universally, not everywhere, but a lot in today's educational system. So here, if students are clueless and irrelevant, students are directionless. The coursework seems irrelevant to them, both for their personal goals and for societal needs. Their general education classes are often abstract. They're disconnected from what they want to do, distracted from careers. They're normally taught in a very passive, knowledge-based manner. Think of all those like Western, like we had at the college, we had a history of Western civilization course that, that was required for general education. A lot of students took it, but it had no contextualization of them as an individual. So while these courses absolutely broaden horizons and are great for broader critical thinking and citizenry, they fail to equip students with practical skills or a sense of purpose. So the result here for students in this quadrant is I believe they graduate with uncertainty and with hopelessness. Learners often feel disengaged and they're disinterested with no clear path forward. And this is why so many of our students end up dropping out. They're unprepared for life's challenges. And frankly, like me, they're burdened with a lot of student loan debt and they feel education's a waste of time. So we go to the next quadrant. Well, what if education is relevant for them? Well, I call this passion without practicality. So in this quadrant of education, this is where students, yes, they might get industry-aligned courses, right? We do a lot of work, like Jeffrey and I, we've done a lot of work in the state about making sure that we have in-demand majors that have industry certifications aligned and it's relevant to industry's needs. But in this quadrant, students, it fails to connect with the individual learner's purpose or their self-awareness of their strengths, right? This ties a little bit what Debbie was talking about their personalities and about really their aptitude of who they are as people. So for example, you might even get a student here who pursues a computer science degree, right? In demand. And it's a high demand field, but if they don't have a steep interest in coding or an aptitude toward technology, they might get a degree and they may even secure a job, but their lack of connection to the work will leave them disengaged, dissatisfied, prone to burnout, prone to job shifting, which is happening so common in people's 30s in particular. So here, students that are relevant but clueless, this results in learners who feel they've wasted their time. They lack future clarity. And so they're totally misaligned with their initial career and life goals. So in the third quadrant here, we think, okay, let's get a little bit more holistically and student-centered. So in this quadrant, we have students who their education is customized to them. It's personalized. There's some connection between who they are as a learner, their self-identity, their career direction. But here the content is irrelevant. It's irrelevant to society. It might be antiquated. It's irrelevant, leaving students unprepared for gainful employment. And so it might even be in a degree that we think is aligned. For example, there might be a passionate student who knows they want to be an engineer, and they take a mechanical engineering, but maybe their faculty is not cutting edge, and it's been 10 or 15 years since they were in industry, so they're getting an outdated specialization that doesn't align with entry-level skills anymore. So they graduate with a deep sense of purpose and clarity in their career, but they lack the practical skills to succeed in the job market. And that happens more frequently than I believe we want to really acknowledge or that we measure in education. So this results in students that are frustrated, they're ill-equipped, they have a lot of motivation for the field, but they're ill-prepared to make a meaningful impact. And so, of course, then in this fourth quadrant, where students are relevant and purposeful, this is what I believe is the future of education and where our metrics need to more deeply align. This is where students not only get education that's aligned with their personal goals, but also with the needs of society and with industry. They know what they want. They understand what the world demands. They're properly equipped to succeed. They get a degree that is relevant with industry credentials and mentorship and social capitals. They have a competitive advantage, and they really have an alignment of purpose with who they are and with what they want to do. So these are the ones that are truly going to be successful in their field. So what I've spent a lot of time working, and this is the whole crux of Catapult, and thank you for staying with me as I kind of explain this theoretical framework behind it, because this student experience matrix really articulates the concern, but we do not need solutions focused on programs. And I'll read through this list here. We don't need programs designed on different assessments. We don't need solutions to expand work-based learning and certifications. Although for those of us in education, think about how much time we spend in these things. We don't need a solution to build new labs or to buy new equipment. We don't need solutions focused on labor market alignment. We don't need solutions focused on advisory board meetings. And we certainly don't need solutions just to increase retention and graduation rates. If we are truly going to change a student experience, so that every learner has an experience that is most relevant and purposeful to them, we have to focus on culture. And I'm so glad Debbie just went first, because she kind of teed this up to talk about this. We have to really be focused on changing culture. Well, how do we do that? How do we change educational culture in America with this new paradigm? Well, traditionally, there's 5 things we would do. There's 5 different professional development options we would deploy, and I won't go through this, and I believe they're all good. They all have options. I love conferences, I love trainings, webinars, keynotes. All these things have a purpose, but these normally fail in changing culture. We normally send like a few people to a conference and expect them to come back and convey their wisdom to others, and that normally doesn't happen. Or we will encourage them to bring a speaker to campus, but then not everyone even comes. And if we do have a one-day training or a one-week conference, there's rarely any ongoing accountability or application. So what we've learned over time is that what we do is really ineffective. So a couple of years ago, I want to give credit where credit is due. It was 2019, and I worked with the National Association, ACTE, to really do research on, well, then what does effective professional development look like to change culture? And if I had a longer time, I'd go through all 12 of these. But here's a secret recipe. This is what it is. Here's the real meat of the secret sauce behind it. Is if we're going to change culture, we need to have interventions that approach all 12 of these elements. So, and again, I won't go through all these, but it has to be a shared experience that clarifies the why, that's presented in diverse ways from diverse voices, has to take place over time, be cohort-based, et cetera. And at the very bottom, it has to be offered in a hybrid, flexible format. We have to meet people where they are and not expect them to all come into one synchronous space in order to get everyone on board. So our mission in Catapult is to change the metrics and the mindsets of K through 16 education in America. And our goal is really to empower and equip educators to lead change, to make education relevant. And so how we do that is through our PD platform. I'll skip that slide. It's really to focus on a career readiness and world readiness in a hybrid, flexible way that is led by the best orators, subject matter experts, and thought leaders in this space, but to combine synchronous and asynchronous learning at scale. There is nothing else, no other solution that was doing this. So we created this about 5 years ago and been very excited and blessed with the progress that we've had. We have over 40 experts and growing, and these are truly international keynote speakers that command between $15,000 and $30,000 for an hour of their time. We bundle them into different program areas. And through these orators, we really teach educators not just about the programmatics and the tactics, but it's really the mindsets about strengthening relationships with the community, about how to level up our experience in the classroom, about how to change the landscape of the integration between the workforce and technology in the classroom. And the overall thrust is about career connected learning for all. Some of the pieces that make our model a little bit different is, first of all, we're about democratized access to education. So when we come into a school, it's for every employee. Oh, someone just advanced that for me. Nope. Let's go back. Thank you. First of all, we democratize access. So we believe everybody, every employee of a district should have access to the content, not just a few people that get sent to a conference. So when we come into whether it's high school or community college, university, every full-time and part-time teacher, faculty, classified professional, staff, administrator, board member, even the cafeteria team and the janitorial staff, they all get the same high-level, high-quality PD. It's all those thought leaders who are dissatisfied with the status quo, who are truly persuasive, mission-driven, data-guided unicorns. Those are the ones I call them unicorns because they're just so unique that once you hear from them, it changes the way people think. And those are the individuals that are presenters. It's not just your standard conference breakout, practitioner. It's all relevant career-connected topics. That makes us also different. And I know, Michael, you'll appreciate this, Bobo, and others that deal a lot with coaching and mentorship. But we bring that element of success coaching to our engagement so that there's ongoing accountability, deep learning, and tactical planning. So we don't just provide the information and then let people sing kumbaya, but we make sure there's practical one-on-one reflection and a deep dive into tactical next steps. That's an ongoing experience. Our master classes, by the way, take 1 semester at a minimum. So it's not a 2 or 3 day experience. And then of course we have a virtual community and asynchronous mentorship that occurs throughout the entire platform as well. We used a number of third-party platforms to start. And then about 1.5 years ago, we built our own platform because what we were doing was really just so unique to connect educators with others. We really believe that iron sharpens iron, and we want to give an opportunity for educators to share impacts and best practices with others, and to do both synchronous and asynchronous mentorship where they find someone else in the field that might be a few steps ahead of them. So we had to create our own platform that really creates that opportunity for people to do. Over the last couple of years, we've grown. We have over 100 institutions every year now that engages in a Catapult Masterclass. It could be an individual, a team, a department, or a whole district. I want to share with you one case study from this last year. I forgot to reorder my slides. First, let me say this. For those that are progressive educators in this field, I'll just read the slide to you. We are the inspiration, the motivation, the collaboration, and the peer community that you so deserve to effectively enact local change and make education relevant. But for those that haven't sipped the Kool-Aid yet, that don't have this mindset, for our colleagues, we end up being a Trojan horse that really evangelizes to them in a non-defensive, non-threatening way, a pro-personalized learning message and a career-connected educational philosophy. And by doing that through the entire district, that's what changes the language, the mindsets, the goals, and ultimately the metrics. I've worked with districts where we've changed the mission statement, we've changed the scorecard, we've changed their dashboard metrics, changed their org chart and their budgets. And that's how it starts to make real change for students. By the way, on our website, which is Catapult's Masterclass, I have a lot of stuff obviously on the website there, but we have some of our outcomes and our metrics. I wanted to highlight 2 for you that just kind of highlight some of the impact we've had so far. On the top right, we do an aggregate survey for any educator that goes through any of our programs. 97.1% of all educators and staff that have been through this report that they feel more prepared and more focused on implementing targeted institutional change. I was hoping for like 80%, but 97 out of 100 is just amazing. And we feel so honored. And then the bottom left, 9 out of 10, 90.8 educators and staff say Catapult helped them to transform passive support into active commitment at their institution, which is resulting in broader understanding and buy-in. And there's a lot of other metrics on how we kind of define our success. One case study, here's what I was getting to. This last year, we did a master class with all of Los Angeles County. We are the largest work-based learning convening in America with over 8,000 registrants over the course of a year. Now, if I just went out and said, hey, we're going to do a work-based learning conference or come to this one-day summit on work-based learning, virtual or in person, I'd be lucky to get 100 people. We got 8,000 people. Even the National Work-Based Learning Conference only gets 800 people at it, and we got 8,000 people. So we partnered with 9 community colleges, made it open to all the districts in Los Angeles County. We had an external evaluator that actually looked at the learning gains in a pre and post test. And I want to give credit again and thank the ECMC Foundation, helped to fund that external evaluation. It was in partnership with the National Association, ACTE. I'm not going to go through all of these, but my presentation's here and uploaded. You can go through all this, but there's a couple slides here that show the pre and post test of a lot of the learning gains. I'll just highlight a couple ones that really, really stand out. When we asked them about an educator's knowledge of work-based learning, we had a 56% increase from the pre and post test of those that could even articulate and understand the purpose and the value of offering, career-connected work-based learning opportunities for students. When we asked them about their knowledge of career readiness, about students being ready for life after the career, we went up from 7% to 83% of educators that now felt they knew how to design effective experiential learning experiences. When we looked at what's this next one is loads. Work-based learning program. This is about an educator's confidence in providing work-based learning programming. So this jumped up to 54% learning increase. And if you look on all of these, I know it's a little small in here in the metaverse, but we had double-digit increases in every single learning gain. Pre and post test, we looked at their educators' knowledge, their confidence, and their institutional capacity for these things. And so to have double-digit increase across everything blew all of our minds away. And there's a chime, I'm not sure what that means. And this last one I'll show you is about their confidence. We asked them, how confident are you in having a conversation with a colleague about the potential benefits of career readiness? And those educators feeling very confident jumped from 28% in the pre-test to 83% in the post-test, that they are confident about talking about career readiness. And we know that's where it starts. We have to embed and empower and equip people to have the conversations with conviction, with accuracy, with data, with student-centered purposefulness in mind. And just giving them the ability to have the conversation means it happens in pockets where you and I aren't there, in boardrooms, in dining rooms, in break rooms. And so we're really just pleased with a lot of those results. And I'll skip this last one at a time. So there's a lot of opportunities. If this resonates with you, if you like this, if you'd like to partner with me and with Catapult, if you have any association or conference that you deal with, we partner with a lot of conferences to make their conference hybrid and to do monthly professional development sessions in between in-person conferences, really leveraging the best of technology, hybrid technology and high flex modalities. We have revenue sharing opportunities with those who want to help distribute Catapult master classes within your network and your organization. We also whitelist our environment. So we have a couple of different companies and associations that whitelist our environment to provide to their network a hybrid learning environment. And then, of course, we collaborate with a lot of individuals on grant applications to bring this type of learning to regions or to larger districts. So to really to democratize access to all of these great speakers and amplify their voices. Here's a QR code if people want to engage or know more about us. You could always go to catapultmasterclass.com or somewhere in here. I know in my profile, I've got my LinkedIn profile. If we're personally not connected on LinkedIn, let's fix that. And happy to connect with you anytime. And of course, here's my my email if you want to shoot me a note and we can schedule time to connect. It looks like I've got about 6 minutes left on the clock, but I ate some of Debbie's time on purpose. So thank you for going quick so I can go 5 minutes over, Debbie, and we're still early. So yeah, we have a few minutes for Q&A. Otherwise, I will stop talking.
Okay.
Any
Great
questions?
job. Any questions for Kevin?
Kevin, I have lots of questions. I was looking to raise my hand here. Here we go. Raise my hand.
Nice.
How long of a process is that usually for, like, when you go to help organizations sort of revamp what they're doing? What is that? How long does that process go?
So the minimum is 1 semester, but we know from anyone that's done with any organizational change or culture change, we know that's the tip of the iceberg. Yeah. So right now the average engagement is 1.5 years, but we recommend 3 because it takes that long. I mean, frankly, when we worked with like Miracosta College in their 3rd year, Glendale Unified 3 years. We have a 3-year engagement with Westmec in Phoenix, Arizona. What we've seen is in the first year, people just kind of start paying attention. Like it takes a little while for momentum to start. People will start to engage in the hybrid sessions, and through word of mouth, someone will say, "Hey, this is really good, Jay. Did you hear this speaker?" And like, "No, I didn't watch it yet." And so, they go back and watch it, and the momentum doesn't move quickly in public education. By the second year, that's when we see a lot of momentum and people really start engaging, and the conversation gets far more robust. So we offer, we recommend a minimum of a year and a half or 3 semesters, but we have up to a 3-year. We have over 40 speakers at 1 or 2 a month. And we're growing. We have over 3 years of content. So we believe it has to be an IV drip over time, a little bit every month, not just a bucket of water in one day. But we're seeing a minimum of 1 year engagement is what's actually starting to turn the culture.
It was really inspiring. Students, your story about how students feel that way, right, when they graduate, and it's pretty amazing what you're doing. I would love to also connect after this conference with you, because there's a lot of career connected pieces that can go in for students in like immersive, some of your courses that are in there.
Yeah, I would love to. If any of you here, especially since we're you're the early adopters for a lot of stuff. If you'd like a demo of just 1 or 2 of our master classes, I'll give you a free access behind the paywall. You can take a look at it, try one of them out. It's like that taste test at Costco.
Yeah.
I was at Costco yesterday. I was actually going for a couple of specific things, and I ended up with frozen lasagna and some dried mangoes and things I didn't anticipate because of the free sample. So I'm happy to give you guys, if you ever want to dive in deep with me and try it out, just hit me, send me a note or a LinkedIn message, and I'll get you connected.
Great. And for everybody that's here, just so you know, a couple admin things here in Frame. If you click on Kevin's presentation with your left click button, you have options. You can download it for yourself as a PDF, so that you can take a look and review it. You can zoom in. So if you hit that zoom in button, it takes your full screen so that you can see presentations as we're going through each of these. And then there's a zoom out to get back out of there and go back into the space. If you click on people on the left side, Kevin's LinkedIn is right next to his name. There's a few people that got their LinkedIn in there. So you can always adjust that in your profile settings. And so if you just click on Kevin's LinkedIn, you can go there, or I put it in the chat also. So you can connect with him on LinkedIn. Thank you, Kevin. That was great. And by the way, everyone, we are now streaming live in YouTube. So off we go.
Great. Our next up is Drew Olson, our leadership consultant. Are you here, Drew?
Hey guys, I'm here. I'm trying to figure
right.
out how I'm going to navigate over to present.
That's okay. You can just use your arrows and use your shift key to move faster, Drew. So we'll follow you. I see you there. So
yeah, I'm going. I don't know.
I'm right behind you. So you can keep going.
I see you, brother. All right. Is this where? What we got over here?
Yeah, anybody that holds down the shift key and the forward button. Sorry to repeat myself, but just trying to be helpful on the movement and space in here.
Can you guys see where I went? My topic is leading human-centered change in the AI era.
Yeah, we're in the center console, everybody, right next to Loving Stone.
Walk with you. Let's walk and talk.
I'm going to make sure that your presentation is zoomable and downloadable.
Thank you, Jay.
So you're good there. So like I said, everyone, you can zoom in so that it takes full screen on that.
Good to see you, Nathan.
Excuse me. How's everybody doing?
I'm stoked.
Who's that, Jeff?
Drew, if you want to step up behind the podium there.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. Perfect.
Nice.
And if you hit V, Drew, you'll have a first person view instead of a third person view, and you'll be able to see your slides and us.
Okay.
Yeah, hit the letter V. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Great.
And if I want to I can move the slides myself.
Yep, you just click the arrows on the left or the right of your slide presentation.
Awesome. Are we all everybody good? I can get started.
Yeah, Drew, I think we're all set. I'll walk around, make sure nobody's lagging behind a little bit, but we'll go from there. I'm gonna, yeah, great.
Cool. Well, listen, thanks for your time today. I'm really excited. Just an opportunity to share some thoughts and ideas. Just a little bit of background on myself. My name's Drew Olson. I currently do a lot of consulting and leadership development in K-12 public education setting, working with different districts on school improvement initiatives. I'm also an adjunct professor in the education leadership department at Stetson University, which is in DeLand, Florida, a suburb of Orlando. So I'm really excited. One of the topics that I train on and talk about is just leading and driving and sustaining change. And that's what the topic is today. I'm just going to take a few minutes to talk about leading human-centered change, and Kevin did a great job in his last presentation just talking about change doesn't always happen overnight. It takes a process. And, that's part of what I wanted to talk about today is just to share some of the science behind how innovations actually take place. And as we all move into virtual reality and immersive learning in some of those environments they're innovative, they're areas that are perceived change for people. So there's a little bit of science behind how those things take root, and that's what I wanted to share. It's more of an informational sharing presentation, and no, it's down to about 20 minutes. So I'll just kind of hit some of the high points and then go from there. So again, thanks for joining us. And so I have a couple of just topics and goals for the next 15. One's just to understand human factors and how they influence change and innovation. So I'm going to share the principles of a diffusion of innovations theory, how changes take place, and then just learn some strategies for leveraging peer networks and trust. When we have change, obviously humans are involved with it. So it's important to pay attention to the human elements as we all lead, drive, and sustain change. So introduce you to 3 things that I'll talk about today. One are just some of the qualities that drive us adopting new changes and innovations in general, right? So there's 5 key characteristics that I'll touch on today that make people more likely to adjust and adapt to a change. 2, the role of peer networks and trust in spreading innovations. And, Kevin touched on that a little bit in his presentation too, when people share some of those ideas. That's on a very, very important part of the process of spreading change. And then 3, understanding different adopter segments within any given population. And that'll kind of give you some strategies on how to move forward and drive and sustain change. And so the visual that you're looking at right now is just a summary of the different user segments, starting with a very small percentage of population that are the innovators. And then as you move from left to right, you have early adapters, early majority, late majority, and laggards. So I'm going to talk about those different adapter segments, understanding them, and how to work with each one. So this slide just is a summary of 5 key qualities of successful innovation in any field. So whether what that product or service is, the first quality of a successful innovation is having a relative advantage, right? And so that's just people perceiving that there's going to be a benefit or an improvement in efficiency in the new product or the change. 2 is compatibility. So that's when you take and you want to make sure that the innovation aligns with the values and the existing practices within an organization. So how much does the new change compatible with existing practices? People are more likely to change when there's a level of simplicity with the change, right? So there's that ease of use and understanding how something works. So not overcomplicating things as we move into change and innovation. Trialability, that's the ability to experiment on a small scale, right? Being able to try something out in a low risk environment. And then the fourth thing is just observability, right? So people are more likely to change when they're able to observe consistent or predictable results with and positive outcomes with whatever the change is. So those are kind of thinking generally about innovation. Those are some of the 5 big characteristics and qualities. And so I have a quote up here for you to just think about. Peer communication, face-to-face communication becomes more influential over time, with peer-to-peer conversations accounting for up to 80% of the adoption process in later stages of diffusion. And so I am piggybacking a little bit on some of the things that I heard Kevin talk about. These things do take time because people need to feel like the change is reliable and that it's coming from a trusted individual. And so that's where being able to leverage peer-to-peer networks and to be developing trust really helps move an innovation forward. Having a trusted peer reduces that perceived risk and uncertainty that's associated with a new product. It also builds confidence through shared success stories. So one way that you can really take advantage of this as you're moving forward with the training, really encouraging peers to lead your training efforts. So when a peer is providing that training to or somebody that's in their peer group, they're much more likely to adapt to change. And the last thing I'm going to touch on today is just understanding the different user adopter segments. When you have a population, for the most part, you can categorize people into one of these 5 categories, and knowing where you're at in terms of the adoption of any kind of change or innovation will help you figure out what your strategy should be for communication and marketing. And so your first category is your innovators, right? Those are your really early experimenters, your visionaries. You may know some people as I'm describing each of these categories, but this is a small percentage of the population, somewhere between 2 and 3%. So those are your first people to jump on an idea or even be the ones that come up with the new change. Next is early adopters, right? So these people they're trendsetters, they're strategic thinkers, and they're also people that are looking for ways to do things better, focused on process and continuous improvement. And so this is a little bit of a larger group, somewhere around 13 to 15%. But that would be your next phase of a segment of users that would adopt the change. Then you have the early majority. These are more practical people that are more pragmatic users. And then they're looking for those proven results, right? Like they want evidence that the change is going to benefit them and help them before they're fully involved. And it takes time to work with each one of these groups, but this is a larger group. That's usually a third of the population. And you're looking for the practical use and application with this group. Late majority is the next group. This group is a lot more risk averse. Much more conservative in their thinking, a lot slower to change. Again, this is typically a third of your user segment as well. And then you have the last group, which is a smaller group, maybe 10 to 15%, but they're laggards, right? They're resistant no matter what. And so, but sometimes you need that group to participate in order to institute sustainable cultural change. So I'm going to take a couple minutes just to talk about within each one of these groups, what are some quick strategies and techniques to work with them. So with your innovators, you want to track them down and you want to become their first followers, right? So these are your super innovative people, and then continuously inviting your innovators to be part of the design work that you're doing. So those initial phases of change as you're initiating and you're in the design process, this is a critical group that you want to engage with, and almost let them take the lead as you're making change and creating something new. How you work with early adopters. So, for this group, offering a strong face-to-face support for a limited number is a great way to start with a new idea. Allowing them to do some trials before you go a little bit larger with that, and really studying and learning from these early adopters in that kind of test environment, figuring out ways to lower your costs and make your product more marketable. Rewarding the egos of your early adopters. This is a group that's looking for the edge. So anything you can do to promote that and promote them as kind of your trendsetters and your fashionable leaders is a great strategy to work with your early adopters. Recruiting this group. This is your good group to identify peer trainers from, right? So they're going to be a little bit ahead of the curve to begin with. They want to be that way. But they're also part of a peer network. So when you're thinking about establishing trust across an entire organization, this is a really good group to tap into for your peer training. And then maintaining relationships with regular feedback is also really important to do with this group. All right. Sorry, I think I hit a button here. All right, guys, I'm going to get back to change the next slide.
Yeah, my screen is saying that Jay is talking, but it looks like there's a mute button over his head.
Can you still hear me, Deb?
I can hear you fine, but I'm getting a notification.
We sure can.
Okay, sorry guys. My screen's frozen. I'm trying to move to the next slide. So
I can do that. There you go.
I feel you.
Is this for early adopter or early majority?
How to work with the late majority.
Can you go back one to the early majority? Sorry.
Yep, there you go.
Thanks, Jay. Sorry about that. Awesome, guys. So with the early majority, so some good strategies for this group, offering giveaways or competitions to stimulate buzz, using mainstream advertising or media stories, with endorsements from people that they respect and are credible. This is a group that's looking for more of a guaranteed type performance. Lowering the cost or the risk for them to get involved. Redesigning your product or your innovation to make it a little bit easier and more simplified so that this group is more likely. Cutting down red tape, so simplifying the application and the instructions on that, and then also providing extensive customer service and support with this group. Jay, do you mind moving to the next slide?
Yep, you got it.
Thanks, buddy. Then just wrapping up with the last two segments. So working with the late majority, not only focusing on your product in this phase and with this group, but also promoting the social norms and how that they'll benefit. And they're going to want to hear that there's a lot of other people that are like them that are also picking up the innovation. So you want to make sure that you highlight that with this group. Emphasize the cost of not getting on board, right? The risks of being left behind. That's another good approach and strategy working with this group. Constant revision and refining of the product to add to convenience. And then also we'll talk about the laggards. This is your group that just has problems with everything, but it's important to address those problems with this group so that they know that you're on a path to continuous improvement. And then last, if you don't mind, working with the laggards. This is a small group, but you also want to get them on board if you can, to the extent that you can. So some of the strategies to work with this group is giving them high levels of personal control over how, when, where, who, what, when, where, and why of them implementing a new change. And then helping them, maximize their familiarity with the product so they can see how others that are like them have successfully adopted. So no, this was a quick and dirty informational presentation. but I think it's important as we move into this era of disruptive innovation when it comes to AI, remembering some of the human-centered strategies that'll help innovations pick up. And so we're in an education setting, particularly in public education. It's just very, very slow moving. Change is slow. And so when we're thinking about the different groups, if we're a little bit targeted in our strategies, it might help us to make change faster and more effective. And so one of the key things as change initiators, it's to understand about what percentage of a population is already adopted a change, right? And if you go back to that graph that talks about the different percentages of the population in each user segment, if you know how many people have already adopted a change, it'll help tell you which user segment you really want to pinpoint in your marketing and communications strategy. So I know that was a quick one today. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it. Does anybody have any questions or conversation?
I like the discussion question you have up here. What is
I'd love to pose that for you guys. So do you have a human-centered strategy that you might want to use as you implement a change initiative in your current role? And I know we're all coming from different places, but does anybody have any thoughts they'd like to share?
I want to say thank you so much for leading us through that. I think it's super important.
I have some thoughts.
Practice.
Oh, go ahead, Blake.
Yeah, I really enjoyed your presentation.
Thanks, Blake.
Yeah, I think to a discussion question or to answer your question, one human-centered strategy that I think we could help implement in AI is probably, I would say, almost like your reaction to things. I think a lot of people sometimes do things and react in a way and don't kind of think things through, especially dealing in the business world. A lot of people set the standard of like, oh, business is business, but I actually try and stay away from those people. I implement like family, so I try and say like business is brotherhood. So I think when people like can like reassess kind of like their reaction to things, I think that will also like set the tone for AI. As AI has been monitoring us and watching us and seeing and how we interact with ourselves and each other.
Nice, thank you.
Yeah, that's such an interesting comment. We're facing the largest most rapid technology adoption we've ever seen in history in a year and a half. The amount of people that now use AI in their everyday life is unreal, how fast everybody's starting to use it. And to your comment, as it learns from each of us, because that's what it's supposed to do as we comment and do things, what it's going to learn and how to react is just such an interesting question. I don't think there's any answers to it yet because it's just sort of a scattershot out there, but it's such an interesting thought. Like what types of AI are we going to create with its learning? So.
Yeah, and I want to add, Drew, I mean, we haven't met, but we're so like-minded, and the diffusion of innovation theory is part of our theoretical framework, obviously, for Catapult, and I just appreciate you broke it down so well. Like the way looking at each segment and really their motivations, how to communicate to them. I thank you for the short version. I could tell there's a deeper, longer, more version with the applicability, and I'd love to connect with you on that. It was a great job, and I agree with what Jay just said. I think we're seeing daily in adoption of AI, but only with those innovators and early adopters. Like I am still equally as flabbergasted by those that have never done anything in AI yet.
Yeah.
And so we really are in an interesting cross section. So anyway, brilliantly done, well articulated. Really appreciate your time putting this together. I liked it a lot. Thank you.
Thanks, Cap. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Drew, thank you. Nathan Herzog here. Just want to add that I had a boss that used to say that when you're implementing a change, there's kind of like this 10-15% range of folks that are going to be on board right away. And then there's this 10-15% of folks that are just going to fold their arms and kind of sit back and not be interested immediately, whatever the change is. And then there's this middle group, and each one of those groups you want to work with differently. And so thanks for highlighting that and bringing that back to light.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Drew.
Thanks, Deb. Appreciate your time, guys.
All right. And then Michael was ready to fill in for you and switch, but now it's time for Michael Bobo, leadership consultant.
All right.
I think my presentation is on the other side, so right across.
Okay.
Over to where it changed your world.
I'm going to go ahead and sit down on one of these stools over here.
I got that just for you, Jay.
Thanks, buddy. All right, I'm ready.
So since we have everybody here, the final question, I know it wasn't set up that way, but the final question Drew posed and the response from Blake actually goes exactly with my presentation today. And I'm going to start by introducing myself. I know, Jay, I kind of messed up my screen.
That's okay. That's okay. I got it.
Okay. And our purpose of talking today is basically we're going to look at ourselves. You know, a lot of times we do look at other people and we look how things are, but we're going to look at ourselves and see how we can make a difference not only in our lives but in others' lives, but most importantly, how we can raise our awareness of how change can affect our lives. So you have a tremendous impact of capacity to make a difference. Now, this PowerPoint came from John Maxwell, and you know, if you don't know who John Maxwell is, he's a world-renowned leadership professional coach, mentor, like everything across the board. Even though these PowerPoints are very simple, which I realize, but it makes us think about our lives and how we deal with this particular thing, dealing with change. So there's one thing that stands between you and the greater success, and it's your unique gifts, because each one of us have unique gifts that we bring to the table. But as we bring those unique gifts to the table, just like Drew mentioned, the different type of individuals that deal with change, we have to learn how to deal with others. But if we don't know how to deal with ourselves and our unique gifts, nothing else even matters. So when you serve others as a leader, you have to, number one, you have to help them grow. And then number two, you grow yourself. So we're going to start with lesson one, and we can't wait for change. I think I missed a slide because I was supposed to talk about myself. So I have been in education for 25 years. I actually just left at the end of August. And now I'm doing consulting work. And I've been in education for 25. I've been an educational leader for 18, meaning I've been in administration for 18 years of that 25. I've been in ministry leadership for 30 years. A master mentor, meaning that I have mentored administrators, teachers, people across the board. So not just in education, but also outside of education. I am a facilitator for the National Institute of School Leadership. And they are also the bigger umbrellas, the National Center of Education and Economy. So what they do is they take systems and where they go into schools and help them with systems so that the school will be, not only a school, but the district will be productive with student achievements. Because at the end of the day, that's what the whole thing is about. That's why I appreciated even Kevin's conversation about the presentation about what are we doing to make sure our students are being successful, not just doing the typical learning, quote unquote, that we continue to do. I'm also a Maxwell certified coach. And lastly, one more thing. I'm a father and I have a family of 4. So it's me, my wife. I have a daughter who's 25, who is an electrician. I have a son who just graduated from college in December, last December, not this December, it just passed. He just graduated from college, and he is working at the airport right now, but he has a marketing and advertising degree. The interesting part that he found out was he did the regular thing that we always tell people to do, right? He went to high school. He took 2 years of college in high school. So he was able to graduate early with his degree. And then he's trying to find a real job, like he's looking for a career job. But my daughter, who did not want to go to college, she went into the trade aspect. And guess what happened? She was able to start a job almost immediately because she's an electrician, and that's what we need right now. So those two aspects made me realize the change that I need to have as a father and as an educator. Yes, we talk about trades, but a lot of time we tell those ones that can't be successful in a regular school setting to go do trades. But you know what? My daughter was very successful. She just didn't want to do it. She needed something that she was passionate about. So with that being said, during the pandemic, we decided, my mother-in-law, we're going to have her move in with us. We got a new house. She's going to be downstairs. We're going to be upstairs. It's going to be great. So what happened, for some odd reason, she fell in love. And when she fell in love, she married this guy I don't know, married this guy. And then now they're leaving. Both of them are living downstairs. So now that's when I say, now we're a family of 6. When we're a family of 4, now we're a family of 6. Why did I go through all that? Because all that was change in my life. So if we really sit down and look at our lives and things that are happening, change happens all the time. So to mitigate that change, we got to make sure that we are aware of who we are, what we bring to the table, and how we have to continue to grow and help somebody else grow. So the interesting part, research says when change comes, period, when change comes, you go through a grief process. No matter if it's a good change like a marriage, or if a bad change like losing a job, whatever change it is, a change of a boss, whatever change, you go through a grief process in your brain. Because it is added stress, the physical effect, your brain has to create new neutrons and all this other kind of stuff. So when you go through change, it's not just, oh man, it's difficult for me to deal with this. No, we're going through physical attributes in our body, in our brain, that we have to readjust to make change happen just for us to deal with it. So I said this because it's very, 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 very important for us to realize that this is a physical change. Just like when a kid becomes a teenager and they go through all those teenage years, just like when a teenager becomes an adult, just like me going through a midlife crisis, yeah, my body is going through something which makes things different, right? So we have to realize that this is a process that we have to go through, no matter how small or how big the change is. With that, who do we need to help make this change? Not only you and me, but all of us, no matter what the like my family dynamics, we had to work together to make this change work. And as we worked together, it got better. But you can't sit back and have change happen and think, oh yeah, I'm not going to deal with it, because a lot of people do. I coach, I mentor, and as I coach and I mentor and have conversations, we also talk about the changes that happen in their lives to make them where they are right now. But everybody is needed to make this change. So what's the first thing we got to do? And we talk about it all the time. Oh, change our thinking. Kevin did an awesome presentation, and I was like, dude, that's a lot. But what he did was had me starting to change my train of thought. Now, was I able to totally change my thought after listening to Kevin? No, because it's a process. It takes time. So when we say changing your thinking, it doesn't mean that's going to happen instantaneously, immediately. No, it takes time. So as that change is happening, sometimes we are stressed because of that change, but it needs to happen for us to do better. The first thing we need to do is make sure that our assumptions that we make restrict our thinking. Therefore, restrictions are possibilities. So usually when I do a presentation like this, I always ask questions so we can have discussions, stuff like that. But we're not going to do that because I don't have much time. And I'm right before the break. Thanks, Debbie. So I want to make sure that I get through this. So the assumptions that we have usually are not always correct. So then when we have the facts of the matter versus our assumption, in between that is change. So there are a lot of assumptions that we bring to even getting to know people, when we go to a party, when we get married, a lot of assumptions. But with those assumptions, we have to work our brain to the change to the fact. Even if the fact is close to our assumption, there is some type of change that we have to deal with. So if you want to adopt a change the world mindset, you must have hope and believe in yourself. A lot of people, even today, and I know we talked about different types of people, but people do not have hope and belief in themselves and what they bring to the table. And that is a product of our society, right? Our society does not always sit and put out hope and put out belief. If you go on the internet, if you go on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, whatever, you put one thing up there and people will tear it apart before they build it up, which is an issue. That is a problem. So we have to sit back and get hope and believe in ourselves. And if you believe in a creator bigger than yourself, you could say, I know that he put me here so that I can believe in myself and help somebody else. And I can have hope for somebody else. With that being said, since you have that hope and believe, you must be able to lead yourself. Some people are not good at leading themselves. They need somebody else to show them the way. I'm old enough to remember, and I'm pretty sure everybody on here remembers when you used to have a map to get from one place to another. Then we grew to MapQuest, and I used to love MapQuest. I was like, oh yeah, we got the thing. Now we got to a GPS, which we still don't listen to. The GPS will tell us, no, I know which way this goes. I'm not going to follow GPS, but the GPS tells us the fastest route to get there. Why did I use that as an example? Because as we lead, we need to make sure, lead ourselves, we need to make sure that we're going in the right direction. And the only way that you can go in the right direction is to make sure that you know which direction you're going in, and there is going to be change while you're leading yourself there. When do people change? When do people usually change? These 4 things. When they hurt enough, when you hurt enough, you're like, no, I got to do better than this. This has to be. When they see enough, meaning that I've seen that I could do better, or I'm tired of being where I am. When they learn enough, there are people that are continuing to learn better and learn more. And I'm going to use this as an example. Even me in the school system, love the school system. I love my students. I've always been through K-12, primarily middle school, but I got to a point where I knew that I had more to offer, not only them, but to the world, to sit and coach and mentor. And once I got to that point, because I started learning 10, 12 years ago about how to do it and how I could do it more effectively, I said, it's time for me to step out. And I couldn't do what I used to do anymore because I've learned enough. Lastly, when you receive enough, and receiving is not about money, it's receiving enough knowledge, receiving enough hope, receiving enough belief that, you know what, I can do better and I can change people and I can change the world. And when I say change people, it's not saying, hey, you need to change and be this type of person. No, you need to help people change so they can learn how to deal with change first, but then number 2, be the betterment of themselves. So this is what you got to do. Have hope for others, be a hope helper, and hope for a better future. I got 5 minutes and I will be out of your way. This is what Mother Teresa said. I can do what you cannot. You can do what I cannot. Together, we can make great things. Meaning, if we do things together, we can accomplish so much more. And I used to hear them say all the time, there's no I in team. But then Kobe came back, said it is a me and team. So, it depends on how you look at it, right? So the reality is no matter what we do, we have to continue to strive to work together. So when change happens, that's why we have so much difficulty in the world today, because when change happens, everybody's not moving in the same direction. So lesson number 2 is going to take me about 4 minutes. Everything multiplies when you work together. So lesson 1 was talking about yourself. Lesson 2 is about multiplying because we all work together. 5 principles of change. We is more important than me. Who is more important than how? What unites us is more important than what divides us. What I have is more important than what I lack. And lastly, collaboration is more important than cooperation. Collaboration and cooperation are totally different. You can have people that cooperate, like Debbie said. She had that dog image, and everybody's going to do it because they believe in her. I'm going to cooperate. Collaboration is when you sit and we sit and talk about it and figure out what works with both sides. It's not always going to be 50-50. Sometimes it's 60-40. Sometimes it's 90-10. And if you're married, you know how that is. But the collaboration part comes when we sit and we work together to make it happen. So these 5 principles, these 5 thoughts are the things of change. Call to action. So I'm calling you to action right now to make sure that you make change in your life. So how can I make this change? You got to do something. Man, it's not that simple. Yes, it is that simple. When you want to change, you can make the change. So you have to do something different than what you're doing right now. Number 2, take notice of your thinking. A lot of times we let our thoughts just run wild and we don't stop and think, why am I thinking this? You know that word metacognition, to think about what you're thinking? Yeah, we need to do that. So in change, you're going to have to think about what you're thinking and not go the negative route, but go the positive route. Where does your hope lie? Am I hoping in my job? Am I hoping in everything's going to be fine? Am I hoping in my money in my pocket? Where does your hope lie? If your hope lies in a higher deity, great. If your hope lies in, man, I'm going to hope that my wife stays with me forever, well, that'd be great. But you're going to have to make some changes to make sure that she stays with you forever and do some collaboration, not cooperation. But you have to be honest with yourself and say, where does my hope lie? Next, I'm waiting for the slide. Are you focusing on things that could be? Are you focusing on things that could be, or are you focusing on things that you have no control over? A lot of times we focus on things we have no control over because mentally we're trying to change it and we cannot. Are you stuck with negative thoughts of the way things are? Because sometimes we get stuck in negative thoughts. And when we get stuck in negative thoughts, it's hard to get out of that because we'll put ourselves in a pit and we're trying to climb up and we cannot get out because we're so intrinsic in those negative thoughts. But there's so many positive things that are going on that we can focus on instead of those negative things that are happening. Are you looking for what unites us more than what divides us? Are you looking for in your sector? Are you looking in your leadership, in your company? Are you looking for things that unite your company and unite people together? Or are you looking for things that keep people divided so that you can say, I'm still the leader. Oh, they don't get along and stuff like that. As long as it's they, you will get nowhere. When it becomes us, you can accomplish anything. But being us, you have to be able to notice and know when the changes are coming and how to deal with it. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. If you have any questions or concerns, you can ask them now. Thank you.
How can we download Michael's presentation? Michael, I enjoyed your presentation a great deal.
Thank you, Kim.
Michael, all you got to do for anybody watching is left click on the presentation and it will give you the option to download it.
So everybody is able to do that?
Yep.
Okay.
That's the beauty of being in here is all the functionality. If all the things are set up, it's a great space to just kind of collaborate.
Oh, Jay, and if we're real, when we first said we were doing frame, that change messed all of us up. We were trying to figure that out, and our brain was not computing. But we made it. We made it.
We made it. You know, that's change, right? Like
A lot of
No, Michael, it's a
neuroplasticity.
piece of cake for me. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So, well, that was great. And is anybody having any trouble clicking on it and seeing the zoom and the download button?
No, it worked just fine.
Okay, great. Because sometimes the only thing that you have to hit the pencil if it's yellow to turn it white, and then those options come up because you might still be in editing mode. So, cool. All right.
Okay. Our next item is a break from 1:35 to 1:55. Do we want to keep going or do we want to take a break?
Maybe a short break. People can, use a bio
we
break
can talk
and
and network,
grab a cup of
and
coffee and come on back in.
In my case, lunch. But yeah, then we will start off with Nathan at 1:55.
Okay.
Yes, and I am sitting. If you want to sit and come talk to me.
I'm going to go take a seat at the table too. So, Michael, on a day-to-day basis, working with organizations in your role, can you tell me a couple of like really great use or success stories? Just kind of imagining what that looks like.
So the interesting part is, Kevin kind of put it out there, which is interesting to me, that it's not a one and done or it's not a year thing. Mm-hmm. All the work that I've been doing has been piled up on years or months of coaching and mentoring. So when we talk about success stories, it's always about, for me, with the coaching, it's about people learning about themselves, but also how do I make this change happen and make everybody successful. So I will give you a story of one assistant principal I'm working with in Hillsborough County. And he was working with his teachers trying to get students to learn more, but he was trying to do it through their professional learning community. But he has such an array of teachers, like new teachers, of course, it's education, new teachers, middle road teachers. But just recently he put a plan together. We worked on it together. He put a plan together. And when he had the meeting, it actually worked because he didn't sit and tell them what they're going to do. It was a collaboration and everybody talked to each other and they collaborated together. And he was just like, oh my God, Bobo, it actually does work. I said, yeah, it does work when you collaborate and not just tell people what to do. So not only was it working together well for adults, but in education, if the adults are working well together, the students have a better experience across the board.
Yeah, was that a department or a K-12 or
actually the school that he was at is a K-8 school.
K-8,
K-8, yeah. So he's actually had to split it up. I think it was like K to second grade, then third through fifth, and then sixth, seventh, and eighth. And he had to work with all sets of them. He actually is on MacDill Air Force Base. Mm-hmm. So that was a whole nother ball of wax because that's a whole nother world.
Yeah, yes, indeed.
But he's being successful with just the change of how to look at learning differently.
Yeah.
So it was excellent.
Hi,
Irina. Hey, Michael, same question someone asked me, like, talk to me a little bit about, we're in parallel worlds here. What timeline and duration are you finding it takes for people to really engage and then to see results?
And Kevin, I'm gonna be honest, outside of education it's so much faster.
Yeah.
Because in education, there are so many moving parts, even after a year. But what I've learned is if if you have a year with people, if you give them the resources and build systems for them, it bodes better for you and that person as they move forward. A lot of times we just tell people, oh, do this and do that. Or even when we're coaching them, we coach them for that year and then say, all right, next year we'll do this. No. During that set time that I have, I'm going to make sure that we build systems for you so that they are ongoing systems so that you can use them not only in your job, but in your home, because they have to see it pliable, right? If they don't see how they can use it on a regular basis, it means nothing. Or if I can only use this at school, it means nothing. These systems have to be usable wherever they go, and they have to see it. So if we're talking about a time frame, I can't necessarily give you a time frame, say, oh, it's a year or 6 months. It depends on the individual. And when we're dealing with individuals, you know how that is.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's 3 months, sometimes it's 6 months. It depends on how long it takes them to get the system together that works for them. Once they got that, once that light comes on and they're able to do it, boom, everything is like so much easier for them. And as a coach, only thing I'm saying, I'm not trying to teach you how to do a layup again. Only thing I'm trying to do is to remind you when you do your layup, do this particular thing. So like in leadership, I don't have to remind you that people are different. I just have to remind you, hey, how do we deal with different people so that we can move forward?
Yeah, I love that. And I think our collective challenge in this space is to get people to understand that, because so many, even in education, are looking for that magic bullet, that one-day training, that 2-hour, solution. And it really has helped them understand exactly what you just said. It's a 3-month, 6-month, 1-year process, and getting them to understand they've got to dig in deep. And that coaching element is vital. So yeah, well said, friend.
And Kevin, it's crazy to me because, as you know, we keep doing it over and over again, right? At the beginning of the year, we say, hey, we got this big bang, and then we just leave people alone. Or we hire this motivational speaker, and then they're gone. And so many people are making money out of it, but I am different. I don't want the money just so that I can have a keynote speaker. I want you to be able to change your life. And then in turn, you'll be able to change students' lives because you have changed yourself.
That's right. That's exactly right.
How many of you have worked with boards, a corporate board versus the senior leadership in a university department, and what are some of the stark differences there? Because
I've spent a lot of time with elected officials and school boards, and it's fascinating because I've never met one yet that was malicious. You know what I mean? Like, no one ever sits down and says, I'm going to continue to have irrelevant schools with poorly funded budgets, and let's bloat the bureaucracy to hurt students. Like, no one says that.
Yeah.
So they're well-intended people that across the board really want something that's beneficial. But I think so many of them are also, they're absent this perspective that Michael so clearly articulates. They don't understand the change management philosophy that Drew talks about. So they're ill-equipped really to lead some of this change. So they're really just waiting for the middle or upper management to provide them a silver bullet solution. But they're not, again, it's not malicious. So they really just don't know, but they're well intended and they're open to listening. It's just a matter of their time is so scarce. It's getting them to have the time and space to really digest and understand this.
Yeah. I noticed the difference just as a company working with either an executive team deploying immersive technologies or a senior group of administrators trying to deploy the technology. It's night and day.
I had the opportunity to work with the State Board of Education during the computer science framework development. And one thing that I noticed with elected officials is the accountability to their constituents. And it's interesting to see what floats to the top based on their individual interest or the people that are in their ear. So that would be my 2 cents worth is, who are these elected officials accountable to, and what are their agendas and accountability?
That's right.
Hi, Rena. Rena, I won't take away from your presentation coming up, but Rena's had the opportunity to work across all these sectors that we've talked about, working with different decision makers, and and now when you all hear her presentation, she's working with a new company or a group, a community, to build community among teachers and educators looking at change. So it'll be exciting to hear from her. Oh, let me take a look here real quick.